Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Karen Greer, CEO of Secure Content Technologies, and I'm here today with Joshua Brown, CSO of Spektrum Labs. Josh, welcome and thank you for joining me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So this is our second in a series of three really beneficial discussions that we're having about not just Spektrum Labs, but a lot of the cybersecurity issues that companies are dealing with today. And our topic is really, what is Spektrum AI and why is it a game changer for corporations, organizations of all sizes? And I know firsthand that Spektrum is not just another security dashboard, a workflow, a compliance layer. You're much more than that. And I see my clients coming to security audits, cyber insurance discussions, things like that with spreadsheets, with questionnaires, with static reports from, a week ago or a month ago. And Spektrum AI brings such a game-changing new layer and also eases their workload in many ways. So I'm going to just kind of open that up to you because you're the expert subject matter here, and explain to our listeners what that's all about. Because I think it's amazing.
No, thanks, Karen. It's funny because we were just out at RSA. We sponsored at B-Sides, and we got great traction, and we got a lot of really great feedback from security practitioners, which was our goal. And I love that you call it the dashboard thing, because I was having a conversation with one gentleman, and he said something like, "Oh, so you're another dashboard," and I thought, well, I mean, we have a dashboard because it's necessary for humans with eyeballs to be able to interact with something visually. But you're right. That's, and there is a benefit there around the dashboard, but that isn't what we are. We are, the short version is that, we're the proof layer for cyber resilience. And one of the phrases I used a lot over the last week was, we're like a flight recorder for your cyber resilience posture. So we allow you to go back in time and see what your posture was at any given point, when a lot of the tools on the market tell you, they're optimized for security operations. So they tell you what's wrong right now, what you need to fix right now, which we also do. But I think we're the only one that has that, flight recorder capability. So what we actually do is we connect to whatever the current tools are that the customer has. We validate those tools, those safeguards continuously. We detect any drift, and we package those outcomes into portable proof. And that's really a differentiator for us is we use the tagline proof over promises, and we make outcomes provable. And so, that's the difference between us and other platforms that may collect, point in time attestations, screenshots, system generated reports. Those are all pieces of evidence, but they're not proof. And the only proof you can get is directly from the tooling itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's an incredibly valuable tool for customers to have. So, can you kind of outline for us what Spektrum actually provides? What information does it actually provide to the customer, to the auditor, to the cyber insurance company? Like you have a plethora of things that you all provide, and it's real time, unless I'm missing things, and they can say up to like, oh, yesterday at 1:00, here's.
That's right. Yeah. So the problem that we're trying to solve is that security teams can describe their posture, and they can provide evidence for their posture, right? So system generated reports and screenshots and all those sorts of things are bits of evidence, and that's on the harsher end of the spectrum. Some people describe that as security theater, because it's as soon as you take a screenshot, it's out of date, right? As soon as you generate a report, it's out of date. It's accurate for the moment in time it was taken, and when you extend that logically to, okay, well, we have to do this for audit purposes once a year. That's great for that day, right? But what about the other 364 days of the year? And so what we're providing to our customers is proof, rather than scrambling across different consoles and screenshots and spreadsheets. That proof is ready for you, as you said, in near real time. And this is, a category shift in our space from, compliance theater to proof over promises. So from the client's perspective, the customer's perspective, what do they get out of this? Well, there's less manual evidence collection. There is stronger insurance readiness, less scrambling during audit season, faster answers, when someone says, can you prove that you're secure? Can you prove that you're resilient? And there's economic benefits that trickle out from those too, right? Audit efficiency, lower audit costs, stronger insurance readiness, better premium and claims outcomes. So, depending on what's important to the customer, there's a variety of lenses with which to see the value the platform provides. But ultimately, we're providing continuous validation of posture more than point-in-time screenshots or annual evidence hunts.
So specifically towards the cyber insurance discussion, and we won't stay on this forever, but I do want to make a point to touch on it because a lot of my customers come back and say, Karen, I went to buy or renew my cyber insurance and they asked all these questions that really made no sense to me. And they came back with the sense of feeling that the cyber insurer really wasn't sure why they were asking those questions. And the customer came back feeling like if they had an incident where they needed to make a claim, they were very unsure whether they were going to be protected or paid out on that claims. Yeah. So I'm anxious to hear how the cyber readiness discussion with cyber insurance comes into play here.
Yeah, it's a great question, Karen. And it's, this is what the CFO really worries about when it comes to business resilience, right? And I think we talked about this a little bit last time, that the CISO is worried about, are the tools that we've invested in working properly, configured properly? Will they protect us the way they should? The CIO is worried about, well, if the CISO's stuff doesn't work, will our backups allow the business to recover? And then ultimately the CFO is like, look, I don't understand a single word either of these guys are saying. But I want to know that our insurance will make us whole if there's, a really bad day that happens. And I think you're right. Just in the short time that I've been at Spektrum now, about 13 months, I've seen a marked change in cyber insurance questionnaires. So literally a little over a year ago, I saw a questionnaire from a major insurer that was asking questions like, do you have licenses for email security? They weren't even asking, is it deployed? Is it configured? How is it configured? Compare that to a questionnaire that I saw literally this week that was 110 questions, and they were actually well targeted and well researched. They were saying, hey, if you have MFA, have you disabled weak second factors like SMS, text messages, and email? For your backups, are your backups encrypted and immutable? They're getting better at it. And I think some of that is a reflection of where the market was in terms of it being, a hard market and versus a soft market for customers. But I think we're also seeing where the regulatory space is heading. So if you look, towards the federal space around FedRAMP, they're moving from annual attestations to continuous control validation, which is exactly where Spektrum is positioned. Because they realize, that uncertainty around, I don't know if my insurance is going to pay out, that is at the core of what we're trying to do, right? You should always know that you're meeting all the requirements in your insurance application. And from our perspective, we want to do away with the insurance application altogether. Because once again, you're asking questions and providing point-in-time evidence, which could be, if everything was 100% accurate and you knew everything about your environment, you could answer those questions 100% accurately. That would be great for today, but it doesn't tell you anything about tomorrow. It doesn't tell you anything about 3 weeks from now or 100 days from now. And so, we already have, I think you probably saw the announcement that we launched an insurance partnership program through Sophos.
I did.
They're running some of their renewal customers through it for managed detection response, which is one of the strongest signals that the insurance industry has seen on likelihood of a breach. So if you have Sophos MDR, you have something like a 0.001% breach frequency, which is incredibly low. And so, what we did with Sophos is we brought together 20 plus carriers and 5 and counting brokers. And by, for a Sophos customer to connect their tooling to Spektrum, we can then reveal to the insurer the posture of those tools, only the pieces of the posture of those tools that the insurer cares about. And then the insurer on the spot will quote. And so we can quote, issue, and bind cyber insurance through our platform, in partnership with Sophos. And those customers are getting 20% discount on their rates, or no retention, or reduced or zero deductibles for IR services. I mean, all of these benefits, right? And so on the one hand, we have gotten some questions from people like, well, what if I don't want to share that information? I totally get that. Like, I'm a privacy guy, right? And I thought back to a few years ago when Progressive introduced that thing that you could plug into your car and it would tell them if you're driving like an idiot, right? And for sure, there's some people who didn't want Progressive to know that. But if you're in an accident and it turns out you were speeding, or your car wasn't repaired properly, or you weren't keeping up with the maintenance, or your license had expired, or you were drunk, or like all of these things, right? Mm-hmm. Those are going to come out in an accident situation where you need the insurer to be made whole. And so my view is on this one, look, these are fact-based criteria that your insurer is evaluating you on. If you can give them the most accurate information up to date, they're going to, first of all, you'll know whether you're covered or not, because their requirements are now visible to you in our dashboard. And yes, like I said, we do have a dashboard, but they're also going to trade that assurance in for, hey, we're going to give you something in exchange. We're going to reduce your rates. We're going to give you better terms. We're not going to have to audit you if you have a bad day, because you'll be able to export that proof from Spektrum and show them, immutable tokens that prove how you were configured and that you were meeting all the requirements in your application.
That's pretty amazing. So I love what you guys provide as far as portable proof. And I think that portable proof plays out through many areas of the business, not just the CISO, but the CFO, the CEO, like all layers of management across the business. It gives them visibility and quick peace of mind, so to speak, of where the company posture is, what their level of risk is, so they can make that executive decision, right? Instead of guessing, oh, let me show this screenshot of this spreadsheet and this portal and that console. Like we're able to present that to the executive committee, which I think is massively valuable to companies of all sizes.
Yeah, you're right. And I think, there's been, a lot of people have talked about the communication gap between CISOs and the senior leadership team or the board. And frequently that's because the CISO is speaking a completely different language. And so, it's incumbent on the CISO to speak the language of the business and to talk in terms of risk and monetary impact. But at the same time, what we do is we shift that discussion so that now we're talking about the state of the world. Like, this is what we're presenting through our dashboard and through our proof engine is facts of the matter about how your company is positioned from a resilience perspective, connected to your actual tooling and reporting on your performance against your own requirements. Whether those requirements come from your own internal best practices, whether they come from compliance frameworks, whether they come from a parent company, whether they come from your insurance provider, it doesn't matter to us. So this really puts the customer in the driver's seat in terms of being in control of managing to their own risk appetite. And then what that does for the board and the senior leadership team is, look, if I come to you as the CISO and you're not happy with the amount of red on the dashboard, and red is bad, just to be clear, then we can have a different conversation, right? We're not arguing over why something is red or green. It's red or green because it's red or green. That's the fact of the matter. We're not doing the thing that we said we wanted to be doing. So if you want less red, we either need to adjust our risk appetite and say, hey, we're okay with 99% endpoint coverage because that extra 1% is going to cost us another, $500,000 of manpower to manage to. Or we can invest more resources into the program so that we can close some of those gaps that are revealed. But the real key here is, I think, knowing at all times where you stand. And that gives just the transparency and the directness of the proof gives the CISO, the security team, the board members, the executives. It should give them confidence. They may not be happy about where they are, but at least they know. And we don't have to have those trust-based discussions anymore because we're providing that trust layer.
Right. And I find it interesting as I have been dissecting the product, so to speak. There's no yellow. There's red or green, and there's no middle ground. And I think for me as a business owner, for any corporation, looking at that gives, those are facts. And like, I've always been of the belief that I can't make decisions on anything but facts. I can't make it on minutia. I can't make it on what if, what maybe. So red or green, I think, is a very solid business outcome that all levels of management with any company would be benefit from.
No, you're right on. And early on, when we were taking this product to market and we were sort of testing the waters with some of our design partners, we got the question a lot, like, why is there no yellow? Stoplights have yellow. That's a warning, like you're going to need to stop soon. And it's a valid point. But I think, from our perspective, we're not strictly speaking a compliance tool, but we do take whatever your targets are per safeguard category. So for, as we were talking about MFA before, right? Do I have all weak methods of second factor authentication disabled? There's no yellow there. I either do or I don't, right? Do I have, because the insurance companies aren't asking if you're sort of pregnant. They're asking, do you have all administrative accounts covered by MFA? And the answer is yes or no. And so our platform was designed to turn even non-binary responses from tools into binary responses, red or green, or as we joke, if you're colorblind, gray and darker gray. We've got to deal with that in the UI very soon. But ultimately, you're either complying with whatever those requirements are, or you're not. And so if you're not, again, you have two choices. You either invest whatever resources are needed to get to that level of compliance, or you adjust your risk appetite so that you are compliant. And either of those are valid approaches. What is, in my opinion, not a valid approach is pretending the problem doesn't exist. And we do away with that possibility altogether. Like, you will know what your problems are and what you need to do about them.
Well, you really do. And so if I take this from the bigger picture of everything that you can do, and I kind of boil it down just a bit and say, okay, what does this give me a true snapshot or visibility into? My backups, MFA. Can you kind of just elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, we have over 130 integrations built across, I don't know how many categories now, but not essentially, any security tool that you have, we can connect to if it has an API. And that's maybe a little jargony, right? But if the tool is a modern-ish tool and it has an endpoint that we can connect to, then anything that's exposed by that endpoint can become a criteria that we evaluate you against. And we can take those criteria, whatever the list of them are. So, for backups, we're looking at, is your backup immutable? Is it encrypted? Are you using strong authentication to access the backup console? Are your backups recurring? So they're not just one-offs. Have you tested any backup in 90 days? These are all things that we just do out of the box without knowing anything about your environment. But again, anything that's exposed by that API can become a criteria. And so that is a conversation we have with the customer after they've connected their tools. Sure, we have some opinions on what they should enable, but ultimately the control is in the customer's hands. And where we're leading with all of this, we've white gloved everything to this point. Again, we just launched at the end of October. So it's a very new product, but we're turning over all the power to the customers to be able to build their own journeys, which are just collections of requirements, to customize those journeys in any way they want, to integrate their own tooling by themselves without our help, and to set whatever criteria they want and the values, to be able to change those at any time as their risk appetite changes. And so, the bulk of the work on our platform was building the proof engine that I keep calling it, right? Which is your ledger of performance over time. It is a normalization layer for all the different data sources that feed into it so that we can make sense of those in that binary, you're doing it or you're not doing it sense. And then we layer agentics on top of your data. So AI is not connecting to your tools. It's not polling your tools. It's not touching your tools at all, but it allows you to manipulate and dissect and display your data in ways that are useful to you. So it's detecting drift, it's validating facts, it's normalizing, and then it's explaining that proof. So, you know, we can generate insurability reports for you, CISO reports for you, custom dashboards on the fly that are also portable and shareable. I mean, that is the value that the agentic layer brings to what we've already built. And I think customers are just going to continue to be delighted by what it's unlocked for them.
Oh, I think so. Well, they're already delighted by what you have packaged now, and it's going to be really exciting to watch it evolve and continue to grow over time. So thank you for this wonderful discussion today. And to our listeners, like, we would love to have more discussions with you. If this has piqued your interest, reach out to me. We would love to spend a little time with you, learn your environment, and show you how Spektrum can become a game changer in your business. So thank you, Josh, and I look forward to talking to you again really soon.
Thanks so much, Karen.